Learning how to use the RGB curves always seems hard, but I made it very easy for you here. You will learn all about the custom curves to start with, even how to do color correction with curves. You will also learn how to work with all the other curves such as the hue versus hue, the Luma versus saturation, and all the rest. Remember that the RGB curves is a very useful and interactive tool that will help you adjust colors and create impressive color grades. By the end of this section, please feel free to experiment as much as you can with the RGB curves. Let's explore together the curves. If you are on high resolution, the curve icon, or the one that brings the curve region, is just over here. If you are on low resolution, it will look something like this, and you can select the curves. I go back and then I bring in the parade. Now, if you come to custom, you will notice that you have 6 kinds of curves that you can use. Hue versus hue, Luma versus saturation, and so on. They are very interesting and very powerful to control your colors. You could select the one you want to work with just from here, or click on the buttons here and cycle through, decide which one you want to work with. I'll come back to custom curve. Now, within curve, you can control the highlights, that is the top right corner. You can control the shadows, that is the bottom left. And in between here, you will control the midtones. For example, if I click on the point for the highlights and take it down, I will be taking down the highlights. If I go towards the top left, I will be taking up the highlight. So this is down and this is up. By moving the highlights, you notice you did not affect the shadows at all. Now, if you click on the shadows and take it to the right, you will be taking down the shadows. If you take it up, you will be taking up the shadows. And notice you affected the shadows without affecting any of the highlights. Now, if you come in the middle here and just click, you create a new point. With this new point in the middle, you can control the midtones. So if you take it up or down, you will be controlling the midtones. Notice that you did not affect the shadows or the highlights. If you want to remove this point, all you have to do is to right click on it and it's gone. Now notice that when you take the highlights down or up if you like, and you take the shadows down or up, you are also affecting the midtones. Unless you have a point in the middle, I will reset that. Put a point over here, and now you can control the highlights without affecting the midtones, and you can control the shadows without affecting the midtones. I will reset this. Now, why do we use curves if we can do all this work within the primary wheels? That's because of control or precision controls. You can add a point to control, for example, the midtones and take it up. But also you can add more points and adjust the curve the way you would like, and subsequently your colors, so you have much more precision and much more controls over the colors the way you would want to control them. I will reset all this. Now notice here you have a chain link. When it's on, it means all these colors are linked to a single curve. So now we can see only the Luma curve, or the white curve if you like. But if you move it, you will also be moving the red, green, blue curves. I will reset that and remove the chain link. By default, it will go to the Luma here, the Y. So now, when you work on the Luma, because the chain link is off, you are only working on the Luma curve. And the red, green, blue remain unchanged. You can select the red, for example, and start working on the red alone. That's because the chain link is off. Okay, you can see the red. You can select the green, or because you can see the green over here, you can just click on it and start working. And now you can see the blue, and you can click and start working on the blue and adjusting the colors the way you would like. I will reset all this. Within curves, you should notice that if you select a point and go towards the right bottom corner, this corner over here, you will be taking down the colors. Here in this case, we are taking down the highlights. And it works also for the shadows. If you click and go towards the right bottom corner, you are taking down the shadows, as you can notice from the graph. If you're working with the midtones, going towards the right bottom also will decrease the midtones or take them down. If you go towards the top left corner, you will be increasing or taking up the colors. Here you are. You can see it on the graph. Also for the highlights, you can do the same. And then if you have a mid-tone, you will be increasing the mid-tones here. Let's take this one here and this one here. You can see it on the graph now. You are really taking up the mid-tones. So the right bottom is about decreasing or taking down. The top left is about increasing or taking up. I will reset all this. Now in the next lecture, we'll see about the other options that we have over here and the soft clip. Because you already know about color correction, how to get the highlights and the shadows and lift a bit the midtones or adjust them, then it will be interesting for now to try your hand to do color correction for this image using the curves. So we have the parade here. I don't know if you would like to use the waveform. At this stage of the course, I think you can make the right choice. But I will use parade because I can see all the red, blue, green. Usually with curves is always the parade. From the graph, you notice you need to lift the highlights and take down the shadows. Before you start, make sure that you have the link is on. Okay, mine was off. So you're using the three colors at the same time. Then you click on the Luma point for highlights and you drag it up. Towards the left, of course, is going up. So you can decide where you want to stop. I will stop just over here. Notice I have a problem with the blue. I need to lift the blue a bit. Let's work with the shadows. Of course, you click on the point for shadows. You take it down, that is towards the right, and the shadows now are cool. Actually, you're having very good correction. Now we need to work with the midtones. So notice what you have here. If you go up here and take it up, notice which part you are taking up. It's mainly this part over here on top. I will cancel this. If I go down for the midtones and take it up, notice what I'm taking up. It's mainly this part over here. So you have the choice here to decide which part you want to take up and which part do you want to take down. So I will come in the middle here, click and take it up. Okay, that's my decision. Maybe you'll find something better. I'm looking also at the image over here. It's brightening up. It's quite cool. So we have this portion here. Should we take it up? You'll notice here you have a lot of concentration of colors. It is this part over here. If it doesn't work, you don't care. You remove the point, then put another one and start working. Here we are, we're lifting up. Are we getting good results? Actually, we are. There's something important also. I'm recording through my monitor, but the recorder I'm using Camtasia maybe is not taking all the colors at 100%. So there will be a difference between the colors that I'm looking at on my monitor, which is somehow calibrated, and the one you are receiving through Camtasia, the website, and then through your monitor. So actually this graph with you might look different on your monitor. For me, it's okay. For you guys, you need to do the graph to see exactly how things are appearing for you. Within the curves, let's look at the other options. You have the possibility to copy a curve to another curve. For example, we know that these curves are identical. So if you remove the chain and change one curve, for example, I will take the Luma, just for example, then I would like the red to become exactly like the Luma. The best way to do it is to select the curve you want to copy from, and then come to the menu and say, okay, copy to red. The red did not disappear, in fact. If you click on red only, you will notice the red now, it's identical to the Luma. You can select the red now and decide the red you want to copy it to the green. And here you are, the green is exactly like the red, like the Luma, and so on. Now there is a nicer option here, which is editable splines. I will select it. And notice what happened. When you select a point now, it has two handles. If you click on one and start moving it, you can adjust 100% your curve. And notice now you are having Bezier curves, and then you can do any adjustment almost that you like. That's what's happening. The first one is only one single handle, and the last one is one single handle. It's all about precision and control and doing the graph the way you would like. I will reset this graph. Then we are going to go to the next option, which is default anchors. But before, I will remove editable splines. And I'll go back and say add default anchors. Here you are. So notice what happens. It has added points in strategic areas, not randomly. And every 2 points will act as an anchor for the middle one. First point is about the high highlights or the upper highlights. You can select the point and just adjust the way you would like. Notice that the other 2 points are acting as anchors. So nothing in the curve is changed except what's under the control of this point. I will undo this another time. Then if you take the middle point over here, also the extremity points for this middle point are acting as anchors. Here you are. So actually now you are even more in control of the curve and how you want it to work. If you move a middle point, for example, the other 2 are acting as anchors. I will reset this one, put the chain again, so all the colors are linked. Go back and add default anchors, remove the chain, select the red. You have the same thing for each color now. You can move the red and work on the colors the way you would like. So this is how the curves is about precision, is about controlling the colors through a curve, doing all the color correction and all the color gradings that you need. From the curve, we have seen only a single curve, which is the custom curve. That's because you can customize it the way you would like. Let's look now at the hue versus hue. All you have to do is to select it, or you can go to the second point here. Hue versus hue. What does it mean? Actually, you can translate it into color versus color, meaning you're going to select a color from the curve and change it to another color. That's what it means. Remember when you played with the hue here, we are actually cycling through the colors, changing them from blue to red to blue again. Though you can put a point and another point and start playing with the curve. Well, that's very interesting. You change things almost randomly unless you know exactly what you're doing. I will reset. There are 2 ways mainly to work with the curves. You either select a color from over here, or with the color picker, you select a color from within your image. Let's start from the colors here. Notice the colors. You have the primary colors, red, green, and blue. Okay, I skipped one in between. Then you have the secondary colors, that is yellow, cyan, magenta. And notice the color wheel over here. Red, yellow, green, cyan, blue, magenta. Exactly like this. So you're not going far. This is not random. So you could select a color from here and change it to another color. I will click on the yellow. Notice what happened. 3 points were created. The extremity points are the range of the yellow from over here to over here. The middle point is the yellow. And actually you will change the middle one, and the other 2 will act as anchors. So if I click here, I'm changing now the yellow towards purple. Here you are. So you notice I changed to purple wherever it was yellow. In fact, we are selecting only one node, which is this node, and we are working just over here. Then you can go down and select another color for the yellow. Now the yellow has become green. You can decide how do you want it, and also you can add more points. Okay, so let's go like this. So now we have different kind of colors. So the yellow range now is 2 ranges if you look at it. Now it's 3 ranges if you like, something like this. Okay, don't be very happy about the curves. Maybe the influence is not better. To remove a point, all you have to do is to right click on it, and you can remove the last one if you like. Then you can come back and put another point and just move it. I'm explaining this because it applies to all the other curves. I will reset this one. Let's select the red now. You notice here you have the 2 anchor points. Okay, these are the extremity. Because the red will extend from this point, it goes forward and it turns around to this one. So you can imagine how the line comes here and then it turns around to the line. So the anchor points are this one and this one. So the right extremity is this point and the left extremity is this point. So if I grab the red, I can take it up, and notice how it's coming up from both sides of the graph. Now I'm changing whatever is red, I'm changing it. Now it's purple, and down maybe it's gonna be green. Beautiful. Notice every single pixel that has red here has been changed to green. That's pretty powerful. Of course, you can come around and start playing and doing other stories if you like to. I will reset this one. Let's select, for example, the green. Now you have the 2 extremities and the green in between. I will move it up and down. And when you see nothing happening, it means this area or this image that you have doesn't have any green. or doesn't have any influence within the green. Okay, so really you're not changing anything. Notice the graph is not moving. So I will reset it. Let's take the blue just to show you. This is the range of the blue, and then you can go up and down and nothing is changing because blue influence here is almost nil. The second way to change the colors is to select your color from the screen. Now we are on this node and we're working on this part. For example, I'm gonna take the red over here. Now, notice how it's narrower because I'm not selecting all the red. I'm selecting a specific color over here. And this is the range of the color I have selected, the two extremities. I can click on it and take it up. Notice what's changing. Notice that there is a difference between what she's wearing and the color. It wasn't like this before. Then I click and drag it down. Notice how the change are. Of course, you can take it left and right the way you would like. Now, if it's not good for you like this, you are missing something, you can extend the range of the color. Here you are. Okay, so if this point starts moving with you, no problem. My mouse is very sensitive. You can just come to the hue rotate here, select the point, come over here, type 0. You are back to 0 here. Now we go back and we can change what you want. Notice when I extended the range of the two extremities, some other colors started to change around. This is because we have more range here. If you can click and go to the other side, so now the point is over here. Okay, I'm adding very much of the range. I go back and put it 0 so it doesn't move, and then other range now is being changed. Let's come to the first node here and select the red over here. Notice how narrow it is. Then I'm gonna change the color. Here you are. So it's changing the color of the butterfly. It's keeping some kind of red here. I can extend the range. Here you are, and notice what's happening. This is narrowing the range, this is extending it. I'll put it back to 0. And you are changing the range of these red colors over here. I reset it. I will add a new node. Come with the color picker and select the red. So now we're taking the whole image with the last node. And the red here, I'm gonna increase it. Here you are. Let's extend a bit the range, just from here a bit, to include all the butterfly, and even from here, put it back to 0. Then notice we have changed all the red towards purple and stories like this. Okay, pretty cool and pretty nice. So when your editor will come and tell you, or the chief editor come and tell you, this girl was dressed in red, make her dressed in blue, this is how you do it. Hue versus hue. But also there are other methods that I will show you. So this is about hue versus hue, and I talked a lot because I love it. It's very interesting. And actually, when you shoot a video, mainly at home, and you change the color of the cloth, they're all like, I don't have this shirt. The next curve in line is hue versus saturation. What does it mean? Hue is color, and saturation you have seen. It saturates the colors, if you like, make more colors or less colors. Okay, that's a naive explanation. So hue versus saturation means select a color and increase or decrease its saturation. As usual, you can come to one of the colors here, primary or secondary. I would choose, for example, the yellow. And then you have the 3 points as usual. The two extremities define the range of the yellow we have selected. And the middle one is the color itself. You can click on it and take it up. You will increase the saturation, as you can see. Of course, you can take it left or right and decide exactly what kind of saturation you want. I will reset this. Also, you have the possibility to select a color, and I'm gonna take it up. This is the yellow again. And over here, you have a button that says turn it into Bezier. Look at it. Now you have the Bezier handles where you can influence more the range or create, kind of a graph where the range is less influenced even rapidly. And this one, for example, less influenced coming up towards the color. I already said that. You also can use the picker. If you come to the on-screen control, select the qualifier. And for example, let's select this red over here. And let's take it up. You notice you are increasing the saturation on this red. Is becoming some orange stories like this. And you can make it almost gray if you like to. That's pretty cool over here. Let's reset this. take this node where we deal only with this side and take this color and make it gray. So lady now is dressed in gray. Now one more note, saturation here, the default or the middle line is 1. Also you can select a point, you can increase the hue range, here you are, or the hue input, you can select the other one, and instead of playing with the graph you can just scrub here and you change the range and the point position. Now you can click and change the saturation the way you would like. That's it. Let's see about Hue versus Luma. This is the fourth one. And it says here, take the color and adjust its luminosity or its brightness. For example, I can take the yellow and you have the 3 points. The extremities are the range and the middle one is the color. I can click on it and increase the brightness of the yellow. If you notice, from very bright, it became completely white, to very dark, here you are, it became almost black. You can also, using the qualifier just over here, select a color or a range of color. Let's take another one from here and let's select, for example, this color red, and increase its brightness or decrease it until it's totally black. Now this is pretty cool. Over here we changed her clothes already several times. You can take yellow, for example, it's over here, and then increase its brightness, as you can see, or decrease its brightness. All the other things apply the same. But the Hue versus Luma is very interesting when you want to change the luminosity or the brightness of a certain color within the curve. The Luma versus saturation curve is very important and extremely useful. You can control the saturation for a certain brightness or certain luminosity. So you select your brightness, Luma, and change its saturation. The curve itself comes with 2 already set points. On the left, you are controlling the shadows. You will add the saturation for the shadows or remove the saturation from the shadows. On the right, you will be controlling the saturation for the highlights. You add saturation for the highlights or you remove the saturation for the highlights. In the middle here, you will be controlling the saturation for the midtones. If you add a point, you can take it up to add saturation for the midtones, take it down to remove saturation from the midtone. As you can see here, some shadows still have some colors and some highlights also still have some colors, but the midtones colors have disappeared. You have also here 2 points. One will set a point for the shadows and one will set the point for the highlights. So from the first point on the left to the black point, it is the shadows, and from the first point on the right to the white point that you added is the highlights. You can come now in the middle, add a point, and control the midtones even more without touching the shadows or the highlights. And this is the most important thing within Luma versus saturation. Of course, you can add now more points and narrow down the saturation the way you would like to control it. For example, something like this. You remove lots of saturation for certain parts of the midtones. That is, for example, is over here and over here. And you increase the saturation just in the middle here. So Luma versus saturation, it's an important curve that will control for you the saturation for selected brightness. The last curve is saturation versus saturation. And it's a very important curve to balance saturation within your image. The point here is to select all the colors that have a certain degree of saturation and change their saturation. So you're selecting according to the level of saturation and then changing the saturation. The curve comes with 2 points. On the left, it represents the least saturated. You can see it from the color black, which means no colors, no saturation if you like, or the least saturated. On the right is the most saturated. You can see it because you have white, it means you have colors here, so it is saturated. This curve can solve the big problem of balancing saturation within your frame. For example, if you come over and add saturation, you notice it's adding saturation to all the colors. the one that are oversaturated and the one that are saturated and the one that are not saturated. So actually it's a uniform increase, which doesn't work in this case. I will reset it. The way to solve the problem and to get a balanced saturation is to come over to the left where you have the least saturation and take it up. Don't take it up too much, just take it up over here. So what do you notice? You notice that certain colors that are not so saturated, you increase the saturation, like the lady over here. You then go to the most saturated, just on the right here. You click on it and take it down. So all the colors that are very saturated, we are going to take down the saturation. Don't take it down to the maximum because it will become now grayscale. Let's put it just in the middle here. So actually you decreased the saturation for the over-saturated and you increased the saturation for the undersaturated. And now somehow you have a balance here. If you now increase the saturation itself, you are almost increasing uniformly. Of course, you need to work on the curve here. So actually, saturation versus saturation will help you to balance the saturation within your frame. You can decrease the saturation on the oversaturated and increase the saturation on the undersaturated. Thank you. I will see you in the next lecture.